The key thing in reincarnating the enterprise IT is for us to rethink on the latest technologies, but also go and understand business, the business of the IT enterprises. So in the first section, let's just briefly talk about why am I talking about business? Why am I not only talking about the technical side of IT enterprises? Now, if you would understand about corporate IT, the environment is about applications, about keeping the lights on, about platforms across the networks, intranet, and also goes on to the web. It's all about requirements about security and administration and infrastructure. Is the data center going up? What's the uptime and stuff like that? Who does all of this? It's the CIO, the Chief Information Officer. It's a typical job title that is there in an enterprise, and where they're supposed to be the drivers for supporting the enterprise goals. There have been many surveys which are done by analysts and the business journals, and we've seen that the state of CIO from 2008 to now, it's not a separate entity. CIOs are actually either reporting to a CEO or a CFO or a COO. It has different areas where every CIO is working on. Of late, according to the latest survey, 50% of the CIO respondents have started saying that they're not just at the backroom engine. They're not only looking at supporting the IT applications, but they're on the operational board. CIOs are working with the executive management teams themselves, and it has seen an increase from the last year itself. 69% of the CIOs now have more strategic responsibility rather than only looking at IT. And hence, the CIO jurisdiction typically, it's not just the design development data center. It has been traditionally in the subservient planning for this climate, but it will go on change later on. How has IT evolved? Let me take the era back into 1960s. It's been a very technology era. We've looked at mainframes, huge systems, very complicated. They're still going on, but at a very low scale. The distributed era started in 80s, then moved on to web-based, where all of us were just thinking about www, whether it is of intranets or internet. And as on today, we've actually moved over to smart computing. It's not just about web applications, but it's about social computing. It's about virtualization. It's about cloud computing. All of that is very different from what typically always the IT enterprises have been. Way back in 1999, and some of us would have been around at that time, the hot topic was Y2K compliance. The enterprises were only thinking about other massive infrastructure investments. What happens to ERP systems? Are there pervasive intranets that they have to look at? And what's the upcoming after the Y2K? How would internet and e-commerce initiatives go on? So from those humble beginnings that you see in mainframe, it has come to a very modern era of smart computing. The traditional backroom, traditional IT organizations are doing a makeover. However, everything is changing. What is not changing is what are the IT budgets that each enterprise has. The graph that just shows you, it's a Gartner CIO survey result. For the last 10 years, the IT budgets have been essentially flat. Where is all the money coming from for a CIO to move out of mainframes into smart computing as well, for moving only out of the back engine room to thinking about business? Nothing much, but still the CIOs have to rethink, and that's why reincarnate. The CIOs are there to drive and decide and deliver. They have to ensure that costs are reduced. The enterprise has to be lights on. The new and the latest technologies have to be looked at. And of course, supporting business strategy. They run a back-end IT function. The IT function, again, has to keep the lights on, but also address the challenges that come in from business and technology. And of course, the IT function and the CIO do not run the organization on their own. And what is important is for them to look at outsourcing. We've seen the outsourcing era also aligned very much to the technology area. Prior to, let's say, the Y2K compliance, everyone was only thinking about on-site. Most of IT professionals, and about 58% of you have been into technology, you would understand that everybody goes over on-site. What's important is for some of us to get a visa and go on-site and deliver to these IT functions. Beyond the Y2K compliance, when it was more for offshoring to be increased, and the offshore team, of course, being as much skilled and talented to deliver to the IT functions, it has a new hat on the CIO function as well. And hence, it also makes it important for the CIOs to think about outsourcing, looking at optimization and innovation, and of course, to plug in the skill gaps that each function has. With the evolution of IT, and for me to introduce the IT for y'all, let's think about what's next. Let's look at what CIOs should look at. It's a busy slide, but the leftmost column that you see, you look at all the various parameters where while the business and technology is changing, but then there are parameters like IT spend, where about 70% of the IT spend is keeping the lights on. They have to ensure that applications are up, the infrastructure is on, the data center should not go down. The balance 30% or so is just about looking at spending on improvements rather than just ensuring the lights on. The same for firefighting, let's say. For getting the value of that IT, it's mostly about firefighting. It's not about innovating. Technology and business have been niche areas. The CIOs and the IT functions are only thinking about operational. They're thinking about information, maybe just about 30% of the time and the effort and the investments that are made is not on researching new technologies. It's not about for a CIO to look at cloud computing, virtualization before anyone else goes and looks at that. And hence, the alignment of IT and business is barely at 30% for everybody to think about business. Everybody is just managing IT. Most of this, 30% of what CIOs are driving at, those are where things are going wrong. And the objective of this environment is to turn around the situation. We have to spend time and efforts and money and the people and the skills and everything where it matters. It obviously matters where we're optimizing IT. If you look at it, the turnaround really has to be that about 30 to 40%. In an ideal world, it should be on just keeping the lights on, ensuring that operations and the costs and the administration, all of that is ensured by the CIO. But the balance would be for CIOs to wear a new hat and look at how are they improving. Are they looking at new technologies? Are they thinking business? Is it more strategic, or is it just for IT functions to maintain their applications? That's all an internal view that most of us